Hello, happy Monday, and welcome to Electripreneur Secrets, the Electrician's Podcast. I'm your host, Clay Newmeyer, not Chad. Just a reminder to our friend, was it Dan out there in the group? Join the group. The guy's pumped, loves Chad and Joe, wants to hear us every day. I'm Clay Newmeyer. This is my esteemed co-host, Joseph the Salesbot Lucani, called that for many good reasons, but mostly because of his innate ability to help you master sales, simplify pricing, and deliver premium level electrical service. How was that for a rhythm today, Joe?
I'll take it. It was hard keeping up today, but I've started to expect that you're going to keep throwing the curveball and the cadence because you don't want the orchestra going. That's really what it got to be.
I get that success is boring, and I too have trouble with just doing the same exact thing every day. I love inserting just a little bit of improvisation into that.
I guess that's our strength, because where you're the person that's like, I want to constantly refine it. I'm the person that's like, I want to run the play. Give me the play and I'm going to run it the same way every time consistently.
Well, slight audible, but we got it. Okay. Besides the weather, we were just talking before the show, Joe's going through some unfortunate flooding. But besides the weather, how was your weekend?
Weekend was great. I mean, honestly, being a father is my number one priority, right next to being a good husband. And I feel like I was able to do both this weekend, because being able to spend time with the girls and with my wife, it's worth the flood. If I have the opportunity to spend time with the girls, that's all that really matters to me at the end of the day.
So that brings an interesting question to mind, and I'm not even sure I should ask it. So you know what? I'm going to call it rhetorical. Canadians know what I mean. It was worth the flood. Does that mean you wouldn't rather live in Canada? Don't answer that, please. Don't answer that.
I was going to say, you don't want me answering that question. You don't want me answering that one.
All right. I've been down your way. It's beautiful. But today we have an even more beautiful topic, and I can't wait to dive into it with you.
I'm pumped.
Now, do you remember what we called this thing?
The Secrets of Sidework.
The Secrets of Sidework, Moonlight Electric, and Tanktop Terry.
Throw them in there, right under the bus.
3 of our favorites. Here's why we chose to do this today. Actually, there's a couple reasons. One, as you know, is one of our clients had someone who was doing a bit on the side, and that came to light, and he wasn't sure how he felt about it. So we got to talk about it. That's an important conversation that many of us encounter at some point. Now, here's the other story that's in the background. I have a call last week with someone who's moonlighting. This happens often, right? No offense. I love that you guys were out there. I love that you're going for it. And I love to see those efforts. I do. But some of the stuff we're going to unpack today is going to really uncover some of the obstacles and some of the reasons why it's a dangerous uphill battle. And we have to be very, very careful with this. Joe, what do you say? You ready to start unpacking this?
Oh, I'm so ready. The hands are rubbing together. I am pumped, ready for action. Put on the tee, coach. I'm ready.
Okay. So here's my first question for you. If I currently have a team of electricians and I don't feel good about them doing side work, which is understandable, what are some of the problems that could occur from them doing that moonlighting work?
Okay. So there's way too much to unpack just there. So I'm going to dive into it if that's okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
So the biggest thing is that side work is a multifaceted problem, because it affects both business, it affects revenue, but more importantly, it also affects the client. And that's something that very few people actually touch on. So like the easy parts are, they're taking money from your revenue. Okay, like I get that. We're all on the same page. No one likes you stealing from the hand that feeds you. We'll cover that. But an important part is what is happening to the client. So the reason why some people say that it's okay to do side work was, I wasn't planning on getting that job done, or I wasn't planning on doing that, or it doesn't matter if they're able to find their own work and do it. But think about what happens to the client when they hire a non-company, not person, non-company. Usually that means they don't have their own license, which means if they don't have a license, they can't possibly carry insurance. So sake of argument, even if they did everything perfect, this client is now holding the bag if there's a problem. Their homeowner's insurance will float anything if there was an electrical issue, right? Additionally, because they don't have a license, they can't get a permit. When they can't get a permit, they're now opening more problems for the customer down the line if they ever wanted to sell, or once again, if they wanted an insurance claim. Let's say you redid your basement. Electrician comes in, runs a couple outlets. Simple, easy stuff. Two hours to do. I already ran the lines. You just tie them in. Great. And then there's a fire. Unrelated to you. You just twisted two wires together, but there was a short in the wire within the wall that was already run.
Not great.
No permit means that the insurance company won't pick it up. So who's left holding the bag then?
The homeowner.
The moonlighter. Now it comes down to the fact of, if they had no license and they had no insurance and they had no permit, how could they possibly offer a warranty? That warranty becomes if he answers his phone or not, right? You were reaching him on the Cricket phone. You weren't getting him on the real phone. You didn't have his real Facebook. You didn't have his real cell number. You had the number phone he was cool giving you.
That's the first time I ever heard that. What's a Cricket phone? He's a jumper?
A Cricket. Yeah, no. So a Cricket phone is almost another word for like a burner phone, right? It's like one of those things where you buy it with cash. It's not traceable. When it expires, it's done. You could carry the number over or you could not, but it's an untraceable line. So even if you took that person's number and said, hey, I have this number, I'm going to send it to the Better Business Bureau. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to go to Verizon and get a client call list. You'd be like, oh, this was purchased at the Palisades kiosk in New Jersey.
Now, speaking of burner phones and being burnt in general, it sounds like you've been burnt by this before, Joe.
I just had a lot of experience.
There's a little bit of a fire under this one for you. Do you have a story that's itching to be told here?
So not necessarily. Actually, you know what? I have stories on Sidework, but not necessarily on burner phones. The only reason why they go hand in hand is because when you start working with enough people, you hear from your clients. Like, part of our process is, so what made you decide to call us? And the thing is, they'll tell you. They will tell you so easily all the reasons why your clients dropped the ball. And the things that I would hear was, well, I called and I called and I called and I called. And then I found out that it wasn't even his number. And then you're like, what do you mean? And then that's how it came up. But actually, yes, I do have scenarios that I want to get into, and I'd love to rip into them.
I love your passion today. Please rip it. Let's hear it. Go. I do not want to interrupt this flow, guys.
Okay.
Joe is on fire. He's pissed right off. You guys done it. Tanktop Terry, look out.
So we had a situation once, and I'm not going to say any names, just on the chance that the guy's ever listening. You'll get what's coming to you, but I'm not going to say his names. So the thing was, we had an employee at the time that left for unusual reasons, but we found afterwards that he was doing side work, and we think he left because it was going to catch up to him that he was doing side work. One of these scenarios was where a client approached us and said, hey, you guys failed your inspection. I need you to come and finish the work. And we're like, we never fail inspections. Like, there's one thing we prided ourselves on, is we are damn good electricians. We're not failing an inspection. So then we looked at the file and we're like, I went out there to quote you the work. You never even went forward with us. Like, you never even approved the work. I had the estimate here.
That's interesting.
He's like, no, I went with you. He's like, well, I went with you. I'm like, you didn't. I'm the owner. I'm the salesperson. Like, you didn't. If I wasn't the one who initiated it, it didn't happen. He was like, oh no, well, this guy came and in your uniform and in your truck, and he did the work.
Oh my God.
Now we're talking about an employee that already left. So naturally we went to look at the work, and it was all jacked up. It wasn't good work being done at all. So we had to leave him in a situation like, listen, we didn't do this. This was done by someone else who's not by us. And luckily we caught him in the lie. And if we didn't catch him in the lie, we very likely could have been held liable to it.
Wow.
I mean, he didn't have an invoice but what if he had took pictures, sake of argument, of a person in his home in uniform, like that's a lot harder to argue.
That's crazy. Super
Yeah.
scary stuff. Like that
And
should be a
we
law.
actually,
You can't impersonate an officer, and you should not be able to impersonate a premium service provider either.
yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, and that's literally one of the things we found. The same technician was doing multiple things like this. Like, hey, customers had called and said like, hey, I don't know what's going on. He's not calling me back. He's not getting back to me. So there was a lot of fires to put out after that guy left.
Okay, full squeeze. How do you respond to that in your business?
Okay. So when you find out that someone is side working on your company name, the first thing you need to do is be honest with your surprise. Because if you seem like you have a too scripted response, it doesn't look good. So the first thing is genuine surprise. Like, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude, but I feel like I'm mishearing you. Now, are you sure that you had our technician come out there? The reason why I'm so confused is because we have a very meticulous process that we follow to ensure that you have the best service done before, during, and after. And it doesn't sound like you got that because we didn't track it. Plus, we always have calling ahead of time. We have all our logs. So not only are you showing your surprise, but you're showcasing how organized your business is.
And great response. That, to be
Mhm.
clear, is for a client in this
Mhm.
situation, like the story you told.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. Then how did you
So
go about then remediating the problems that were left behind? You have to bite
that
that? You eat that bullet?
in some situations, yes, in some situations, no. And it depended on the particular severity of the situation. So like there were some where the client was trying to hold us to it because he was like, you came in your truck, in your uniform, and said that you were you. It's like, okay, that was hard. And we literally had to press him for evidence and being like, this is what we have. We have an unaccepted quote that we came out and you didn't do it. So that's how we were able to get out of that particular situation. But if we didn't have an unaccepted quote and I wasn't the one personally had gone out, like if it was a stranger that I had never met, it'd be a lot harder. But because I already was there, I was able to get my way out of it by being like, listen, I'm the owner. I'm the one who handled it. There's no way that I move forward because this is how we documented it.
Yeah.
So the question comes down to is if that wasn't the case, I recommend leaning back into more surprise. Go in for genuine surprise, then go into describing how your process works. And then as far as having to own it, I almost want to say it's based on the severity of the situation. If they have some sort of proof that you came in a company vehicle and you did it on your time, there's nothing stopping you from saying, or nothing stopping them from saying that you yourself went out there. It's a he said, she said. And if they have evidence, like a picture of you or your company doing it, it's a lot harder to defend.
Okay. So let's roll this one into now. It's not the client that alarms you with this information. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually just that you hear through the grapevine. You
Mm-hmm.
learn that one of your staff is moonlighting.
Mm-hmm.
How would you handle that, Joe? How would you begin to rectify that situation? Because I know from the story you just told that you
Mm-hmm.
also began to install some processes in your business to make
Correct.
sure that that wouldn't happen again in the future. And I mean, that's truly, guys, if we can bring this
Mm-hmm.
back again for a moment, this is how we grow,
Mm-hmm.
right? The surest
Yeah.
path to success is this experience, mistakes, collecting information from those around us, and putting these processes in place to help make
Mm-hmm.
sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
So, how did you
So
guys go about that?
So there were two ways. One was with the systems and processes in place. And I can touch on that very simply. There are ways that you can ask questions that get honest answers. What I mean by that is this. There are certain questions we would ask during the hiring process that would focus on you being able to do physical electrical work. Like, okay, you're metering. If you touch this wire to this wire, what are you getting? If you check this, what are you looking at? What part is this?
Mm-hmm.
And then after we've completed the technical, we would then say, well, with all that being said, let's just say we're going into the customer service portion of our testing. Let's say you did the work for the customer. They're happy with everything. Everything came out great. They're like, you know what? You're great. But they mentioned, hey, Clay, I know that this is probably something super small, but I know that you guys install duplex receptacles. I want you to add 2 Decoras to come over on the weekend. Can you come and take care of that for me? And my question for you would be, How much do you think would be a fair number that you would charge them to do that on the weekend? It's a setup question. If they give you any answer other than I wouldn't accept side work, it shows that they would entertain doing side work.
Yeah,
And
a
it's
good
a
one.
beautiful question, because the thing is you'll find that people will start thinking about, like, oh, well, I'm out on the weekend. Like, I even had some people ask, be like, well, are you going to lend me the truck or not? And I'm like, like, I didn't want to freak on him, but it was like, oh, okay, so you think I'm going to let you do side work in the company truck? Well, you're going to factor in what you're going to charge based on what I'm going to give you. So the first thing is, if they give you any answers, that's it. That's the first part.
Just to be absolutely clear, you don't think that it is healthy for an employer to allow or encourage employees to do side work?
Under no circumstance, like, I'm going to say, no circumstance is it acceptable to have your employee service customers in your uniform or equipment on their own time that they're getting compensated for. The logic would be this. Some people will say, well, hey, I couldn't give them overtime work, or hey, I didn't have the full 40 hours. But they found work, didn't they? And you still pay them. What's stopping you from offering an incentive? If they're able to find their own work and sell it and do it, that person should be promoted. I think not only should they be promoted, but they should have the opportunity to do that full time for you. Go find work, sell the work, do the work, and I'll give you an even enhanced commission structure onto it. We'll have it set up to where you get even more than you're getting paid right now if you can operate at that level.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, the question becomes, why do they want this? And let's assume they are full-time. In many cases, the moonlighters that we get on calls and end up talking to and talking through their scenarios where they're kind of in between. No offense, guys. We love you too. Again, everyone's on a journey. We get it. All we're saying is encouraging. It's either no or yes. You're either in this or you're not. Because half-assing it just won't allow, as Joe said, the customer to be served at the highest level. The results of that sort of part-time effort are just really not great. They never are. Why? Because our greatest currency is limited, for one, which is what?
Dealing with time. Time is the first thing.
Time, 100%. If you're just part-time, moonlighting, that's why they call it that. I'm going to work extra hours at night after I've already put in a day or after I've already put in a week. What about as an employer, like if you embrace health, family, business like we do? Like the time off we take is intentional. It's intentional to reset, to bring you back in your best position, in your best shape, to have you come back in a creative mindset, much like I felt myself. Even last night after taking the weekend, working on house stuff, working on the garden, working on relationships, going to the river, all the stuff we enjoy in life. What happens if your staff don't take those timeouts?
You know, that actually is a really good point, because there are some people who take their vacation time to do projects, or they take their weekends or their evenings and they do projects. And granted, we can't necessarily be responsible for their family. Like, if they choose to neglect their own family, that's a personal decision they make. But when they do that, it comes back to our businesses. Because just like we don't like people who work on call, if you worked overnight, what's your next 8 a.m. going to look like? At the very least, you're going to show up looking tired. Or even if you don't look tired, you can, I don't know, put some cover up or something like they got to hide it somehow.
And what about the additional stress? Another project undone. Another thing I took a shortcut on. Now I got to find time during the day to meet for the inspection. Even if you were licensed to go meet for the inspection, there's so many conflicts here. And I truly believe, Joe, if you are someone that's doing this and you've listened to this point and you're not so offended that you've left us already, if you're listening to this still, I truly believe you're better off investing everything you have into what's in front of you, or investing everything you have into the full risk, full send, go out on your own and just do it.
Can I touch on that for a moment?
Anything in the middle is half-assing it. And how you do one thing is how you do everything. And that is so true when it comes to time and energy, because there's only so much. It's the jar, right? It's coins in the jar. You only have 24 every day. Go ahead, Joe, please.
And I'm sorry for interrupting your flow.
No.
Didn't mean that. But the reason why I wanted to touch on it, because it was a time sensitive situation where so many of us started businesses by being out and doing work while already working for someone. Like, I'm going to say honestly, I did the same thing. I was working for someone, but I wanted to start a business. It wasn't moonlighting. It was an intentional business construction effort. And I feel like that should be called as a difference. Because the thing is, people moonlight because they're trying to make more money. But people start businesses because they're not satisfied with their current situation. They're two separate problems. A moonlighter can usually be restored with a payment structure, but someone who is born for entrepreneurialism will never settle for the money you give them. Isn't the expression like, if I'm a business owner, I get to choose which 60 hours of the week I'm working?
Yeah.
It's like, that's really all it is. It's like, you're not working less, you're working more, and you're actively choosing that for the right reason.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that's a difference that has been brought up. Because if you find yourself working with someone who is just trying to make a little extra cash, you can solve that. It's not great. It shouldn't be happening in the first place, but you can solve that with your own company structure by offering additional incentives, by offering ways that they could get lead kickbacks. Hey, bring me a job and I sell, I'll give you a lead kickback. Bring in more reviews, I'll give you kickbacks. Bring in additional jobs sold in efficiency times, I'll give you kickbacks.
Yeah.
But if someone's trying to start a business, the thing is, I would also make sure that you can approach them and let them know that if that's a direction they want to go, you can even help support them through it.
Definitely.
Now,
I agree 100%, by the way. We
awesome.
just had this conversation with another client last week where, okay, if someone comes forward and actually lets you know, what if they just told you transparently, because you have trust, that yes, one day I do want to go on my own. And the intuition for most, that knee-jerk reaction is to go, don't teach them anything. This person's here
Caught
to
him at the knees
and pillage. But what would happen if you flip that on its head and instead you're like, oh, wow, that's incredible. Hey, we specialize in actually customer service, premium service providers right here. I'm so happy you're here. I would love to sit down with you and get your thoughts on a couple of our processes and even look at how we could work together to build you up. And I tell you what, if after a few years you still feel like, hey, this isn't a fit for me, I'd rather do this on my own, fair enough. But on the flip side, if you felt like, wow, this is so great, but you make it so easy and it's incentivized enough that I don't even need to leave, as we would call an intrapreneur, as we've coined it many times, what would happen then?
I mean, the best part about it is that if you can stay at the current place that's already working and you can provide an avenue for them to grow at a personal level in your business, you could either be getting your next partner, your next A player, your next sub for all you know, but you have a relationship with someone that knows your way and they'll remember you when they do leave.
Yeah.
You don't want to leave and have them go, they wouldn't teach me nothing. Instead, I'd rather be like, you know what? I'm going to be good to that guy because I told him what I was doing and he genuinely did everything he could to support me. That's not the guy I'm going to screw over.
Absolutely. And just a quick objection handle to anyone going, fuck that right now. Think about it. If you don't teach this person anything, then what? They're just going to go on their own sooner. They'll be your competitor sooner. I'd rather at least have a chance to build a relationship with someone. And guess what? I'm going to say it. Like, the average lifespan of a worker these days is not 20, 30 years. Everyone in-house right now, look around. If you're in a building, you got a shop, you got staff around you, I want you to seriously look around right now. Look at these people. Every one of them is going to leave you at some point. At least that's your best assumption. So really, the driving principle, the thriving principle in business, I always say, is to make people feel irreplaceable and make them replaceable. Golden rule.
I think that's actually a great expression. I never heard that before, but I really, really like that. I think the closest I can come up with that I've heard is treat people so well that they could leave, or sorry, train them so well that they could leave you, and treat them so well that they'd never want to.
100%. Yeah, very similar expression. So I
Mhm.
want to go ahead and give an action item for anyone that's feeling like the tank top's out, feeling like they're doing the part-time thing, they're driving themselves into the ground, they're trying to make a better future, but they're in a half commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Can we just acknowledge that even in that half commitment, if your current employer finds out, if they don't know and they find out, it's likely a burned bridge,
Yep.
which is never good. It's not good to burn bridges for that because it's a
Mm-hmm.
break of integrity. There are reasons bridges burn, and sometimes it's necessary, but integrity and ethical
Trust.
question
Yeah.
on your part, that trust breaking is never a good reason for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's what I would suggest. I'm going to suggest the hardest thing, which it seems to always be the hardest thing. And you know what? This might help you in your relationships at home. This might
Mm-hmm.
help you in your personal growth and reflection. Communicate. I want you to actually go to your employer. If you're this person that's part time, I want you to go to your employer and communicate your needs with them because they're not mind readers. They don't know. And you've got to
Mm-hmm.
tell them, hey, this is where I feel like I'm at, self evaluation. In fact, let me back it up. Hey, could I call a timeout? Could we have some time together where we could talk candidly, just openly about our situation that we're currently in?
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like things are going good at work and I feel like I'm actually capable of more than I'm doing here. Would it be all right for us to put some time aside and have a meeting about this?
Would it be wrong for me to want to do that?
Yeah, there we go. Would it be wrong of me to want to do that? Absolutely. And so, what are they going to do? You're going to say no?
I mean, a bad boss might. I mean, I think is there are some situations where I can imagine a listener to this right now is still going, fuck that. If someone comes to me and tells me that they're wanting to go somewhere else, or they want to do something else, they want more, they're gone. I want you to, in fact, maybe that could be the action assignment, the all-star
This is
action.
like good cop, bad cop. Okay, you
I
stay
know.
on the bigger company, the employer side. I'll stay on the Moonlighter part time side. Yeah.
I can get behind that.
All right.
So for you guys that are saying like, no, if someone comes to me and says that they're going to be working and doing odd, they need something else, they're gone. I'm not going to take it. I'm not keeping it around. I want you to remember that that person is also connected to the community too. And that their perspective of what's happening, even if it's untrue, becomes more believable when they've been let go from things. Right. So, my point to this is this: they're already connecting their community. If they, hey, at Service Electrical, they're terrible because they do this, this, and this. And that's why, I just had to get out of there. I would rather you be in a situation and say, you get to control the narrative. You get to be able to say, you know what? I want to appreciate your transparency and your integrity and your honesty to tell me these things. And I want to be fair with you. Because on one side, I'm concerned because this is unfamiliar and unexpected information. On the other, I truly do care about you as a person and I want to see you succeed. So if you were me right now, where do you think this conversation should go? And then
Good
just back
question.
away.
Great question. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Allow them to fill the space. An
Mm-hmm.
exercise I would definitely suggest, I'm going on the wrong side, but understanding what your employees value at this time.
Mm-hmm.
You should constantly be doing these check ins and seeing where they're at in their journey because it is a journey. It's not just a moment in time. Your employee is not someone that will just show up Monday to Friday, do the same thing for years on end without any change, without any growth. That's not
Doesn't work anymore.
reality. And if I want growth and I'm still on the staff side of this, I am an employee. I want the growth. I'm wanting to do part time for that growth where I would rather do what I'd be more comfortable doing potentially. One place is having sheltered growth, having one-to-one mentorship, having a situation where someone trusts me to take the next step. And if, as in some circumstances, many times, even in my aggressive growth and career, I've had bosses say, you're too big for your bridges. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not ready. Hello, that's what growth is. Right? You've heard the expressions around this. Anyone in their current position is like incapable or incompetent at it, right? Otherwise, they
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be there because they're not bored of it yet. We're all learning in the seat that we're in. And we run out of these lessons, we run out of growth. At least growers, the ones who prefer it, tend to what? Exceed that position. They want
Yeah.
more.
They want to fill it.
They want to fill it. And that's why, for me personally, the only companies I ever did well in were smaller family run businesses. I love that feeling. I love being able to walk into the owner's office and share my thoughts, even if they're dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they weren't great. Sometimes it was bad ideas. But the ability to go in and have that personal conversation and be
Mm-hmm.
acknowledged as someone who brings something to the table was always important to me.
That actually inspires us to think about something. Is sometimes moonlighting happens when people are treated less like people and more like employees. Because personally, it is never wrong taking from a faceless corporation. When there's just an entity, it never feels bad.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's John, the guy who helped you come up, the one who worked with you in the trenches and is willing to help you when you needed to call out, it's a little harder stealing from that guy
Yeah.
because there's a face behind the brand.
Yeah.
So another area of protection you guys can take is, like Clay saying, talk to them, communicate, make it known that your door is open, not closed. The moment they know they can't talk to you is the moment they're not going to talk to you. It's no different than your kids.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I love that. And I would add this: the number of times, guys, I can't even tell you how many times I've heard on a call, well, I left projects or I left construction, and I'm saying the same thing
Mm-hmm.
because there was no appreciation, because there was no gratitude, there was no impact.
Mm-hmm.
So many of us are just looking for that contribution and significance,
Mm-hmm.
connection, contribution, and significance from producing a result for someone. So another thing that could be really important from an employer standpoint is even a good program to recognize and communicate, like at your weekly or daily meetings, the reviews that came in and the honorable mentions.
Mm-hmm.
Because if those people never hear that, they'll never feel as special as they should for having produced that. Does that make sense?
That really does. It really, and I feel like the significance is a very important topic there.
It's huge. It's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. In reality, I mean, let's talk about this for a second. I once had an employer say to me, Clay, is it unreasonable to think that I would pay you $1 million a year? We were driving down the highway. He said this to me, and I laughed out loud. And he was like, I'm serious. Why'd you laugh? Well, come on. I'm making about 120 right now. Why would you pay me $1 million? And he goes, well, what if you brought me 2 million in business? Wouldn't I pay you $1 million? It was in that moment I realized
Mm-hmm.
I don't get paid by the hour. I get paid for the value I put in the hour.
Mm-hmm.
And truthfully, if you're already in an accelerating business and you can just be one of the linchpins that creates that kind of windfall, doesn't that make you valuable? Doesn't that make you worth a lot of the entrepreneurial benefits while just helping accelerate another business while being part
Mm-hmm.
of something that's already moving in that direction?
Yeah,
It's
that
huge.
makes a lot of sense.
It's
It really
huge.
does.
Ton of opportunity. Okay. So my action item, Joe, today was for the moonlighters, for the guys out there, be honest with the situation, go communicate it, and go talk to your employer. Go get that significance in there. Help them accelerate because you'll actually learn more from that other than going out on your own part time, overworking yourself, stressing your family, stressing your sleep, stressing your health, stressing your company that you're working for, and then
Mm-hmm.
stressing customers with additional liabilities and things they don't even understand. Altogether, this is good for no one for a
Mm-hmm.
few extra bucks. And what those extra bucks go towards at this point, oftentimes not even worth it. Like,
Negligible stuff.
seriously, I want to add one more component to this. If your employer is not willing to take that meeting, if they're not open to hear it, then I've got some all-star advice for you. Pick up the phone, look around you. Every town's got electrical companies in it. And there are all sorts of owners, from one-man shops all the way to dozens of trucks looking to accelerate their business. All you need is a platform that's growing. Not every business is growing. Some are stagnant. And make no mistake, it's growth or death. If you're not with a growing company, then I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. That might mean a shift for you, either on your own or for someone that will recognize your efforts. That was on my side. Do you have something on the employer side that we can enact here today, Joe?
I mean, realistically, man, it's hard to follow that because I really feel like that was incredible advice that more people should take action on. I would say if we're going for the all-star action and speaking from the perspective of the business owner, is I would make sure that you're always, if not advertising on paid dollars, that you are advertising your service to your existing clientele that you're hiring based on culture. Now, the way that you can do that, and the reason why I bring that up, is that if your people don't feel appreciated and they don't feel like there is a way to move up, they never will. And they'll eventually get to this point where they grow and then they have to leave. So always putting out there that you are looking for growth-minded individuals and that you only employ people that are constantly looking to break the barrier, you will start to fill yourself with more people like that. Speak it into existence and it will come. But if you never articulate it to anyone, how do they know that you're the rallying point? Because they're going to be found. Where do they find the Apex players? 2 to 3 levels beyond your immediate circle. So it's not talking to your employee about it. It's your employee talking to their cousin that's looking for work and goes, oh, well, this piece is always growing. We're always trying to get people to go. And great, now they can come in.
Can I add one little nugget to this?
By all means.
Because it occurred to me and it's so valuable. Guys, this is that little shaking moment that changes the future. Grab a journal or start some notes on your OneNote or your iPad, whatever you use for note taking, and make it about the personal journeys of your staff. Take notes on what they value currently and constantly be updating this. And as they have wins with you, record them. As they face challenges with you, record them. And as they give you new information about their needs, what makes them tick, record them, because that journal will pay dividends. I can't say that enough. It's huge. Guys, this has been another episode of Electropreneur Secrets, the Electricians Podcast. We just went into the secrets of Sidework, Moonlight Electric, and Tanktop Terry, and I think we helped all three. Whether you're employing people doing side work, whether you're doing side work yourself, please give those the homeowners a little bit of credit here. Let's give them a little bit of love. Let's do the right thing. Let's make sure that the licensing and insurance is all in place. Let's make sure that we're not leaving liability on people that are just not even seeing it coming. Oh my goodness. Joe, thank you so much for a great episode today. I cannot wait to see you guys again tomorrow for Tuesday on Electropreneur Secrets, the Electricians Podcast.
Until then.